Hello,
Good.
everyone, and welcome to the Alliance on the Move, a show that is brought to you by Dave TV. Today, we're going to be joined by a very prominent group of presenters. I'm Colin Haynes, and joined with me today. We have founding member and member of parliament, Mr. Kemraj Ramjatan of the Alliance for Change, and former member of parliament and vice chairman of the Alliance for Change, Mr. Michael Carrington. Good night, guys. How are y'all doing?
Hi.
Yeah, good night.
Good night, very
Mm.
much. Good night, Colin Ains, and glad that you're moderating this evening. Good to see the bright youngsters in our party coming up and ensuring their foothold and some of the harder tasks, which is like moderating big issues, uh, television programs like AFC on the Move. So glad to see you, and especially after a tiring day at a leadership meeting that we had in relation to some very important matters. But that's the work of politicians, and I'm glad that you were there. You heard the arguments, you heard all of that which we had to state. We don't want to state it here because we don't want to be slap jaws,
Definitely.
as it were. But it's a very, very important that notwithstanding the fact that you might have worked the whole day,
Hmm.
gotta come night time to do some party work again.
Thank you,
Harrington knows
Kemraj.
that. You are learning now, Colin, and it
Yes.
is very, good thing that you're here after all those hours at the meeting. I am good tonight to go on a number of the issues that we have, prominent amongst which was the tremendous amount of tariffs that Mr. Trump, Uncle Trump, they call him Uncle Trump now, as part of
Yes.
Uncle Sam,
Yes. Yes.
has declared onto Guyana by a
Hmm.
process of a calculation that because we are almost 78% or thereabouts in relation to a trade deficit with America, he has now
Hmm.
divided that by two and say, well, we were going to be tariffed, well, pay a tariff on every good that go to um,
Hmm.
America now at 38%. Now, I just want to bring it to the fore that this tariff that was announced by the President of America, duly elected, is going to have tremendous negative effects in relation to cost of living, inflation, and all of that all around the world. I just came off a program watching Mia Mottley, Prime Minister of Barbados, very, very important leader in CARICOM, and she's chairman of CARICOM, indicating the difficulties that CARICOM will now have in relation to this tariff and the pronouncements of Donald Trump. So
Yeah.
the thing is going to eat up a lot, and we will have to change policies. One of the goods that it will affect is sugar. Sugar
Yes.
now going into America will have to pay in the vicinity of 38% tariff. So if we're
Right.
selling it for $1, before
Yeah.
it reaches the American supermarket and before they take out the profit and so on, they got paid 38 cents more per pound. So it is going to have a tremendous effect. And once we start selling less sugar to, say, American markets, it affects us because when the foreign currency got to come back to Gaisuko or to the government or to whoever we sell it to America from, it becomes less amount of money because there will be less amount of sugar bought in the supermarkets. Because a lot
Right.
of people say, we're not paying 138 now per pound, whatever it is. So it is going to have a tremendous impact. And that is why, I had indicated the correctness of the right sizing of sugar and all of that. It is coming home to roost, as it were, because now you have America, which under the Bank of Guyana report for 2023 indicated that we sell to America 69% of bulk sugar that we sell to the world,
Hmm.
69% goes to America, and
Hmm.
31% or thereabouts go to CARICOM. We will have to now sell probably more to CARICOM because if we sell
Hmm.
so much and this 38% tariff, it is going to affect our sales in America. And
Right.
so, sugar workers out there, you don't know how negatively this could affect them and affect our economy. I notice a lot of attention not being paid to it by our president and even the PVP members.
Right.
So it is important. But that is
Yeah, I
an
just
important
want
message that I want to bring out to Guyanese, especially our Barbicians,
to.
this evening.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Kamraja. Just to recap, the Trump administration has imposed a 38% tariff on all Guyanese goods. And for folks out there who don't understand, may not understand what this means, a tariff is a tax, right? So all goods going into America, so let's say we buy in sugar or we buying rice, or let's say we buy flour. If you're buying flour in Guyana, now it'll be 38% more expensive, but now the ones that we're importing now are also going to be 38% more expensive for going to the United States. So
Let
I
me
also,
correct you there. It is the
oh,
goods going into America
yes,
that
that's
have
what
to
I'm
pay
saying.
the
Right.
38%.
That's
We
what
have a
I'm
different
right.
tariff structure
We have
for
a
goods
different
coming
structure,
into
right?
Guyana.
But this will have issues, particularly in Berbice, in Region 5 and Region 6, with our rice farmers, our sugar workers, our sugar farmers, and also our cattle folks as well. So let's welcome Michael into the conversation. Michael, what is your thought? What do you believe that this tariff is going to do? What is the effect on the farmers in Region 5 and 6? And it's multiple
Hi,
areas.
good night, everyone. I'm happy to be on the program again. I love to be on this program. My Barbician friends and families, a lot of my families from there. I grew up in a place called Cumberland, New Street, Cumberland, as a little boy. Born in New Street, a matter of fact. And I used to live in a place called Old Footdown. So I'm happy to be on this program again. Concerning the tariff, it's like a war taking place, or like a war three is taking place at the present moment with this particular tariff across the country, and we will have to try our best to deal with it. In terms of export of the sugar, for the last couple of years, since I think it's 2005 when the preparation market was removed, where we used to have a special price for sugar higher than the normal world price.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, I think Guyana might spend about actually in terms of subsidizing the sugar industry, it may be over 100 and something million, 120 or 30 million, because every
Billion.
year we actually got to give a billion. Sorry about that, billion. Yeah, every year we actually got to give about 10, 12, 13 billion to upkeep the sugar industry. If you give the people that money in their hands, the people in the region 6, in their hands and ask them to invest it in agriculture, I think they will do well. But Gaisuku is collecting all of those hundreds of billions of dollars over the years and could not have get Gaisuku up and running where they could produce sugar at a cheaper rate as Brazil and other countries. So we in the problems. I don't know how we're going to be able to upkeep the industry. I can't see how we were able to upkeep it, the sugar industry. My thing is we should have diversified the sugar industry a long time. In 2022, we had passed the Hemp Act with the hope that in Region 10 and Region 6, we will do massive investment in hemp in terms of production. We will use all those cane fields to produce hemp. Hemp produce over 40,000 products. And to date, we had not even seen the Hemp Act really functioning. We haven't seen the Hemp Authority established, and me to understand they're about to establish it. But all those years since I was discussing about hemp and cannabis medicine and those type of thing in 2015, which is about 10 years ago, up to now, the people spent the last 5 years in government. It's actually 5 years since they're in government. And they had not get that industry running. So if sugar got to push aside because you cannot export it no more, it cannot compete against the corn sugar and the rest of sugar, where we will have to push a lot of money into the hemp industry. But today, this year, I don't think I had saw any money in, I don't know, Kemraj could bear me out here,
No,
any
there was none
money
for him.
in put aside for the hemp industry. Now you pass the law in 2022, now it's 2025, and you can't get a hemp industry up and running. You have thousands of acres of land which is available for the hemp industry to go and to have the value added industry. One of the things that kills sugar in Guyana, hey, Kemraj, is that although we had sugar for all those years, we never really educate our children and grandchildren about sugar products. What we were selling all the time is raw sugar. It's just like rice. Rice produce a lot of products, byproducts and all kind of things, but we don't educate the people in those area how to produce the byproduct. Chocolate, jams, jelly, and all of those type of things, really sugar related product, candy, sweets, and all kind of thing.
It's
The
called
whole
value
region,
added.
Yeah, value
value
added.
added, the whole region six should be producing those things so we don't have to export our sugar. We could, instead of exporting the sugar for 16 cents a pound, it's better you sell it for 30 or 40 cents a pound here and let the people buy it and produce different value added products here. But we are not doing that. We are not educating the children. I don't know what is the problem. The government is in a total mess where that is concerned in terms of the value-added industry. They're spending hundreds of billions of dollars more than the AAP and UAFC had spending Guyana. Our budget was only, last budget was only 400 billion. They have 1.3 trillion to
Trillion.
8 trillion. And
Mm-hmm.
there's no value
Right.
added program in terms of educating the children in region six to produce sugar related products, rice related products, or even like flowering of the provisions, whether it's plantain flour, whether it's cornmeal or whatever to export. There's no proper program in those places educating people that we could have a big value added industry going where we could feed ourselves and feed the Caribbean.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
want us, just
Okay,
before you go, Chairman
sure.
Colin Haynes, moderator,
Yeah.
that the Alliance for Change, via a beautiful statement from leader Nigel Hughes, is asking the government for urging a national consultation in relation to this set of tariffs now that could, in a way, substantially deteriorate our economy. America is our biggest trading partner.
Right.
Luckily, we have some items that go to America now, but they're tax exempted. I think our sugar and gold might be tax exempt. But all the other products, lumber and this sugar and all of that, will mean less money coming to Guyana because of the shortage, that because of the high prices now, that will cause demand in America to be less. So there is need, as Nigel indicated, for us to do a national consultation, as he calls it, and that we should get together. It is like this is a war. You don't only get together when Venezuela is encroaching on your territory. This is like a war. And we have to start getting our people united around what might be the suggestions and solutions. Talk to the business community, talk to the manufacturing sector and all. Because if we don't unite under these banners of tariff from America, the most powerful country in the world, we are going to be the poorer for it. And I mean very poorer for it.
But
Yeah, thank
Kemraj,
you.
we do a lot of we do a lot of shopping in America for a lot of stuff there. And basically, America is like a big market which buy from other countries and then sell back. Then we go and buy. So if they put that heavy tariff on all the other countries' product, and we go into America directly and buy, then we are buying
Prices-
goods 38% higher. So
Yes.
naturally, the prices in Guyana for a lot of commodities that coming out from America, even the ones we don't make in America, but because they are going to America and have to pay these tariff, a lot of those goods and so will be at a higher price.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
cost of living will be crazy. And if the cost of living really get crazy, we gotta get like a monthly cash grant. We're not gonna able with the one 1 year cash grant. Matter of fact, that cash grant we get is for last year. I didn't hear the talk about this year cash grant because the thing that Nigel had pushed for is that 10.5% of the total revenue coming in from oil should go to the people every year. And all we get was the 10.5% for last year. But this year, there's no money, and the thing the cash grant people collecting now is really last year money, which actually spill over to this year. I hope by this year end, before they come out of government, the people could get their money. Or as long as we land in the government, we gotta ensure the people have that cash grant. This year cash grant, the people must have it. We must able to earn from that oil money. It must just not go to infrastructure development, health, and education. I wanted to just feel the money in my hands and able to utilize it for my benefit, see that I get something directly come to me from my country. The money is not the government money, the money is the people's money, and the people must able to hold something. So because at the time this will get more expensive, I tell you, by the time now in year end, with what taking place in America, the prices for things may double. And we may have to go back to basic and ensure we utilizing as much as possible that we are producing Guyana.
Well, you know, Michael, not to cut you, but I heard that the news came out that Bar Jagdeo promised that there will be, I think it's a 1.5 million cash grant.
Per person?
Or something like that. But yes, not per quarter. I think it is probably for the year 2025. How much we got last year?
Wow.
$100,000 each person got?
Yeah, 100,000.
But I
It
think
was
it's like
60
go to
billion,
500
but
or
it was
something like
60
that.
billion.
No, but they have made the promise. But you know what? All of that has to do is buying the votes just before the
Buying the
election.
votes is strictly to buy votes. If they make that promise, it's strictly to buy votes.
Yeah,
But I
guys,
was
so
happy with that
I,
$1.5 million. I think everybody was happy. And
I
they will
think a lot
still
of
vote different.
I think a lot of Guyanese people are, but we were talking about manufacturing, and I want us to narrow into that a little bit more because we've actually come from the idea of tariffs, and also I don't want us to forget that a major export that, in addition to things like timber, petroleum, gold, and so forth, is seafood. Right? We got a lot of fishermen, fisher folk, particularly in Region Five, and we need to talk about the manufacturing industry because I think that there is going to be a spin-off, and also we also need to take into consideration traders and small businesses. So how does this tariff, Kemraj, now have an effect on manufacturers, traders, small business, people who are now going to be plying their trade back and forth with the United States in
Well,
selling
this is firstly what will
goods?
happen. The traders, especially, will have to pay more for the goods that they are buying from America to bring to Guyana because the tariff on the goods going into America will be 38% more. It will cause higher prices for manufacturing and all of that inside America. So if the traders gone and buy corned beef from America or whatever the thing, clothing from America, and a lot of the clothing come from Korea, Thailand, and all those places. When they go into America now, they gotta pay a 38% tariff and increase prices that they will have to pay in
Right.
America. Then they put them in the suitcase or they put them in their whatever containers. They bring it to Guyana. Now we in Guyana got certain tariffs too
Right.
for goods now entering into the country. We call it sometimes the excise taxes or the customs duties or consumption tax, whatever it is called. But that's the tariff for the
Yeah.
goods to enter Guyana now. Now, if you get a 38% increase from buying it inside of America, a shot costs $10, now it's going to cost 13 something. You bring it to Guyana, you now have to pay your additional excise duty here in Guyana. So when you bring it down into Georgetown to sell now, you mark up, the middleman want to mark up, everything will go up as a result of that 38%.
Yeah, by
Because
this year,
it has
everything will go up.
a routine, a kind of a linear effect affecting the prices right down the line. So consumers will have to buy the corn, beef and corn, mutton or whatever, the sardines and this and that and whatever. Once it passes through America, and America has tremendous amount of items that we buy from them, and all of this now will mean a big impact, big impact. So that is how it will affect us. Not only
Just to note,
For,
and just to note before we go to Michael, and just to note that the tariff for us is 38%, but the tariff might be higher for other countries coming into United States. So it could be
That's another
it could
thing.
be higher, it could be lower as well. But Michael, what's your take?
I think what you just said is when I look at it, when I sit down and examine the whole situation with what taking place is crazy. The whole world is actually going to be disrupted, and people will not able to buy a lot of stuff, milk, a lot of stuff that come from abroad. People will find it very hard. We will have to find a way to pay for far better wages than we pay now. At the present moment, people need about maybe about $200,000 to $250,000 a month. No $100,000 a month really could take care of people. But the business them is structured in such a way that in Guyana that you don't make them type of money that you could actually, the private sector could actually pay a very high wages. So we have to have some subsidy somewhere along the line to assist people. Because if you examine a family about four, it will cost them about to live comfortable. It will cost them about $200,000 a month. The rent like bills alone, and so would go up about 60,000. And then you're talking about transportation to work and food. You're talking about maybe $100,000 disappear there. So you only have about $100,000 food. So we gotta find ways. We gotta find ways to one of the things that I talk about the value added industry just now. People have to earn. Everybody in the home have to earn somehow or the other. And the only way that can happen is getting the value added industry going. But the PP government was not able to have that. All they think is about contract, building roads and digging drains. This is all they think about. They spend over $600 billion doing that, and they're not focusing on the value-added industry, even the agriculture industry. They need to give people more grant. I think in sometime around the 50s, a time they had give people grant to plant. Like for instance, coconut is a big thing on the market. Give people $1,000 for every coconut tree they plant. If they plant 100 coconut trees and they're taking care of it, that is $100,000. Like mangoes and all of the big permanent crops and so. Give the people the money so they could use that money to clear lands and to plant and those type of things up front. Next couple of years, you would get it back in taxes because when the people start reaping, they will reap in abundance, they will make profit, and then they will pay back to the state. So they need to push a lot of money need to go into agriculture. We need to focus in agriculture and the value-added industry because at the present moment, the oil will only last for a certain time, 40 years, 50 years. When that finished, what happened?
Yeah, but there is another thing I wish to mention, Michael. What is going to happen? And two economists that I talked to this afternoon have indicated. They're saying that because life is going to be made so difficult, especially for Guyanese living in New York and so on, and all over the country in America, they will also send back less remittances.
Yes.
They'll send big barrels every year at Christmas time. Yep. Now, because life will be made more, because they're all from generally the working class. You got a lot of Guyanese that have done well. But a lot of them are workers in these all kinds of jobs over there. When their cost of living gone up in Uncle Sam's territory, it becomes more difficult for them to send for the grandmother or the mother and the father in Guyana. Every year, I think it's about $100 million or more that is transferred in remittances. 100 million US. Imagine. Yeah. And so
$20 billion.
That is $20 billion that comes to Guyana. I think the last 2 years report from the State Department say that was about the amount 94 to about 100 million US dollars. Remittances. That could be cut down to 50. You know what that is going to do to Guyanese? that is going to make life extremely difficult for them, especially with a higher cost of living that is going to surround them with this tariff and all of that. So their lives are going to be, our lives are going to be very, very difficult. And it is not only monies that come in, $100 million US. It's a lot of these things that are sent with a little package.
Yeah, the barrels.
Barrel and so
Yeah.
on.
To
Yeah.
help
So
out
all of
to
that
help out their family members. We have a comment. One of our viewers says we need to engage our manufacturer traders and small business to do business directly with China or other non-U.S. sources. This will avoid pass-through or double tariff scenarios. Michael, what do you think about this
I have
idea?
no problem in I have no problem with we doing business with any country in the world. Which country we could do business and make money for our people and make a good living, I will encourage that. And what the guy had said there just now, I must say it always is a very good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no country must able to stop us from doing business with whoever we want to do business with. Right? We are not owned by any other country. Right? Guyana is an independent country. And if China may able to help us somewhere, where it is in agriculture, whether it is in the value-added industry and those type of things, we need to take the help from them. They are human beings just like anybody else. They are fighting to survive just like anybody else. And I have no problem with them. Do you know that if it wasn't for China, you didn't buy in no jerseys and no buckler for $300 and $200. You take China out of the race and the race, out of the production line or things coming together, and you will see how expensive you will have to purchase things. Very, very expensive. So the competition with China keep a lot of price of a lot of goods very low, half of the price. Whether it's food, whether it's clothing, and so you could walk in, women walking in a store, it might not be the material may not be of that high quality, but you could wear it for a couple of mornings, $1,000 for a dress, $2,000 for a dress. They wear it a couple of mornings, they choose to dump it, they dump it. You understand? But you can't, if you stifle China, you will pay like $8,000 and $10,000 for some outfits. Because the
No, that is
demands
quite true. That is quite true. That is
yeah,
so
you
true.
can't get rid of China, you mad, you get rid of China, we in dead problems here.
And you know, a lot of them friends of America now, Colin,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
of what Uncle Donald has done, have now gone like Canada and Australia and all these other countries. They go in and trade with India, they go in and trade with China, and they go in and trade with Russia.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it is in our interest because interest is what it is.
Right.
America
Yeah.
is our friend and we have interest there, but friendship sometimes could be harsh and cruel. And what
Yeah.
has been done by this president, and I'm certain that as soon as he comes off there, there'll be a regularization of the situation. But for the next couple of years, we are really going to
Gotta live
punish.
with it. Yeah.
Yes.
Even
And so
us in
if
the
other
United States,
countries
we've got to
can
live
go,
with this.
if other countries can go and deal with China and Moscow and other countries, we have to let it be known because look, competition demands that we behave prudently. That is how the world economic and legal order works. So if the clothing or whatever material comes from India, like a sari, comes cheaper than it comes from some other manufacturer out of America, and we gotta pay more money for it, go for it. You got lots of items that could be come from India, from China, from other Thailand, and so on. And you buy directly from them. You don't have to pay that tax, you know. So it is important that we too go that way, so that we could tie our businesses up with other partners that do not have that very high tariff and so on.
I agree because I think we what we have to look aside now is whether you're east or west, and those kind of ideologies. But now it's strictly based on interest, and that's what the bigger countries are doing. Particularly, like you said, the G8 countries. They're gonna move now to what has long been the United States, their enemies, or folks that they don't have good relations with, and they're gonna do the trading with them, because right now it's about the economy. We're now like a global village, and so it's important that everyone is being able to move their goods freely. Now, in CARICOM, we're gonna get a little closer to home now because I know we've started not much broader, but we're getting a little closer now. Guyana enjoys anywhere between 5 to 20% on trade on tariffs with CARICOM. Should this be the area that we've long not have been, there's not a lot of trade happening among CARICOM nations. So is this the time now for us to explore this as a viable option? You've got CARICOM nations that are actually trading 80, 70, 80% with United States. Whether they can trade more of that with Guyana, per se, they're buying sugar from other countries, but they're not buying sugar from their CARICOM nation like Guyana. So, Kemraj, what's your thought on this in CARICOM?
Oh, no, no. I think that the tightening of the screws by Donald Trump is going to literally push us to unite in the CARICOM region. And yes, indeed, I know of the 25 program. 25% of the amount of food stuff that we buy from America will now be so much more, expensive and all of that. And the CARICOM has come up with a program, especially led by Irfan Ali, our president, so that we start producing all these other items. And it is true that we must incentivize our farmers to that thing and also communicate with our CARICOM leaders like Mia Mottley and them, because the
Right.
hotel industry is big. We have to have bigger plantations of our pineapple. The Guyana pineapple is the tastiest in the Caribbean. I mean, when I was 2 years living in Barbados, I did law faculty there. We used to hear about this. We want the better quality rice. Our rice didn't have the reliability and quality and so on. We got to start tightening up on our industries, creating the jobs here for Guyanese, but also exporting to countries like the CARICOM because they could buy almost everything that we want. We have to produce more beef, and that can help with the whatever beef they want for their breakfast and dinner and lunches and so on in the tourist region, the tourist areas. And then I hear that foolish fella Barra Jagdeo cussing down and saying it's a destination that is a little puny and all kind of thing. I don't know if you saw the thing, but we
Yes.
have to be far more respectful of our CARICOM nations, not get on like that stupid Jagdeo. What is wrong with that fella? And he and Mia Mottley were so close. And that is why we have some Bajan fellas now on TikTok hammering Jagdeo. We have to talk to these people, buy more of the Guyanese goods, but we also have to talk to our farmers and incentivize them. Train them as to the best seedlings, the plants, whatever it is. What are the fertilizers to be used for carrot farming, this, that, all the special needs that CARICOM has. And yes, by the time they reach the CARICOM markets, it is only 5 to 20% tariff they got. If we got to send them now to America, we got that 38% tariff. So it's better we deal with our CARICOM country. And we are a small country, but in a major way, we can help produce all the agricultural produce from livestock, poultry, and farm products for our Caribbean nation. And that is about 2 million people, with Jamaica and so on included, or a little more. And also within the wider Caribbean region. The other islands that are not necessarily within CARICOM, 13 CARICOM countries. We have to start doing that. And this kind of thing needs economic planning, and we're not getting it. And I am urging that we, as Nigel said this afternoon, we have to talk about a national consultation as to what we do diplomatically and so on, and also with our farmers here.
Before we go to you, Michael, I want to read a statement from Mia Mottley, who recently spoke on the issue, and she said that we could lower our tariffs to zero in CARICOM.
That's right.
and it will not make a lick of difference because our economies are small and vulnerable. This crisis, my friends, will impact not only goods, but it may have a large spillover on tourism. We suggest that the region take steps to sustain the tourism as likely worsening conditions and many of our source markets will have negative impacts on the people's ability to travel. We call on our regional private sector and tourism sector to come together to work with governments to collaborate for an immediate tourism strategy to ensure that we maintain market share numbers as a region. Michael, what's your thought on Mia Motley's? This is just a snippet of her statement about
Uh,
reducing tariffs to CARICOM.
that is one lady I admire all the time. She's very grassrooted, and anything that she come out of her mouth is positive, in my opinion. Very, very good. Where it come in terms of if we got to remove our tariff, our taxes, so Guyana could afford that at this present moment. In terms with the amount of money we getting coming in revenue with oil, certain things we could afford to remove. The one is the problem Guyana have with a situation like that is if it trickle down to the person who buy, because somehow in Guyana, when the prices go up, don't care what happened, it don't go down back. It just don't go back down in Guyana. Even if the prices for those same items had dropped abroad, who we importing it from, most of the people who are importing it do not drop the price locally here, so the local man could to sell cheaper. A next issue that taking place in Guyana here too is that everybody want 100% markup on the goods. A lot of people, anything they buy to sell, they are looking for 100% markup. They are not looking to sell volume to make big profit. They are looking to sell less and to make big profit on whatever they sell. So you may have to, if the place get very hard, have some price control mechanism, because you can't allow people out. We're going to bring in everything. You don't have to pay any taxes for it or whatever. But then the person who buying and these things and bringing it and selling it, going away with a big profit and suffering the people by doing that. So you may have to put things in place. I think Guyana needs things in place to manage that exploitation that do take place from time to time. They have a lot of people do exploit situation, and the smaller man feel it, because if I am buying and I have to buy high, and that person make a big profit, then I got to sell my things at a high price, and the small man feel the blunt of it. So what she's saying is correct. What I've gone back years now, Mr. Lyndon Fab Thompson Burnham, he was telling you to feed yourself. A matter of fact, he made a lot of Indians become rich in Guyana, because when things was restricted, he never restrict things out in this country to punish an Indian man. A lot of people peddle the story. You restrict flour, you restrict this, you ban this to punish the Indian people. It was not for that. A lot of goods was restricted because we didn't have the finance, the foreign currency to import. And then we did what he decided, what you could eat where you produce. Why you can't eat sweet potato curry or Edo curry? Why you can't eat it? So he put system in place which most of the Indian people have gravitated to, and they start farming, and Indian people make a lot of money because of the restrictions of the goods. You had to buy the local things which is selling. And a lot of people with local business being propelled and able to be very productive and make a lot of money. So we got to go back to some of those days where we get all the regions. People need to concentrate from farming. You got to eat. Don't care what happened in the world got to eat. And we need to push with a large amount of money into agriculture, talking about large scale agriculture. All on the highway, Yarracabra, going up the highway, Bini and all of those places. We need to push money in that. And we know we need infrastructure development, but a large set of money also have to go into agriculture. The whole of Region 6, all them cane field, whether it's Edo, Dashin, or whatever, We produce some of the best provision here, tasty provision. We produce, and even the seasonings that we produce here, you go in some of the countries and taste the seasonings that grow there and taste Guyana. Guyana have some of the best seasoning because of the soil. We have very good fertile soil, but people need help. Our people in the agriculture need a lot of help. They need financial help. They need grants. They need equipment. As long as we go that way, we could feed the Caribbean. We plan to feed the Caribbean since the 60s. And we need to do that. We need to push that. So any government in power, we empower from this year in, big money got to go into agriculture. I'm not saying you're going to shut down the development of the infrastructure, but agriculture must have big money. We must give people grant in them sugar estate area, have them planting corn. We mustn't be importing any corn from the United States. We must produce all our corn here, all our soybean here. We must produce it. But the people need money, they need help, they need startup money to do those things.
Yamaraj?
I agree. Yeah, look, a big part of what Mia Mockley mentioned was almost making Barnum look real special. Because in that speech that she made, and I was listening to before I started this program, she was indicating that we have to produce our own foods rather than buying the billions and the billions of dollars worth of food out of America. Now, America has a capacity because it has a massive land set. It has skilled workers, skilled farmers. And I mean, I'll give you a little example, Colin. I went on a USIS program with Nigel Hughes and a couple of others to America.
Right.
And in one of these, they caused us to live, I think Mrs. Chandapal was also with us, and Norris Witter. And one of these fellas, we went through several states because we were covering county elections, state government, and also the federal government system because we ended up in Washington.
Right.
And we saw a farmer that would bring in the migrant workers over the Mexico there. And he has about 10 combines. He got an airplane that do the spraying and so on, and a 5,000 acre plot. Now that could feed a whole Georgetown for a week with wheat. What that man produce, you know what I mean? And that is the kind of quality of size of the acreage and so on. And his wife, a strong looking white lady with grease all over her hand and one big spanner. She could, lift me up like. And I said, look at the wonders of these people. And they're managing to do this. He is a pilot. He just look after these crazy weather that has got. You know this thing about the weather pattern with the typhoon, the thing that is twisters and all of that. So he's got for that. But he got a big silo in front of the farm, a big house, and a whole set of tractors and combine harvesters. And he literally controls 5,000 acres. We could do that in Guyana and make a millionaires of almost all our farmers. But we have to start planning for doing those things. Now, America, the point I was trying to make, America could do it very cheaply. We cannot probably at this stage do corn cheaper than America. Because when they do the shying with the airplane, they're spraying with the airplane and so on, they could do a 5,000 acre plot and the cost of the thing come down so low that even if we do it with our farmers here, they could still sell at half the price, even paying the tariff on everything. But what we could have to do is to understand food security. Because if for any reason America don't want to sell us, we would have a set of farmers that know to plant corn, know to plant edo and yam and whatever. We would like to have that Jamaican yam that Usain Bolt does eat so that we could run like Usain Bolt. You understand? And this is what we have to do. We have to select all these best of produce from in and around the Caribbean, bring them here. That is what the Chinese have done with so many other things, not only farming produce and so on, but the best seeds and so on that are, disease free and things like that, or they could fight the diseases better. We have to do that kind of espionage thing, get the seeds here, and make sure that we give it to our farmers so that they could produce the best. And so that when they get a crop like, say, rice or whatever it is, it notwithstanding the bad weather or notwithstanding the blast or whatever, they could get a good crop of 45, 50 bags per acre, and so that we can sell our rice far cheaper. And if it is zero rated now, as Mia Motley is saying, we will have food security in the CARICOM region. It doesn't, once Guyanese can take care of all the rice that is going to be produced reliably for Barbados and this, that, and all the other countries, why not? And we have to go into the high quality kind of rice like the basmati and so on. I don't know what it is that makes this basmati so special, but we have to start thinking of using our School of Agriculture and scientists to do these things and to ensure that we have a set of farmers that are also bright people. Farmers must not only be laborers kind of class, they must be scientific. They must come out of University of Guyana and have the best labs in their homes, you know, and use it like that fella that we lived at least one night we spent at his home in I think it was Minnesota or Wisconsin. And it is just magnificent what these fellas do in those Midwest territories.
Yeah, yeah. I've had the privilege of traveling out west, and like you said, Kemraj, there is massive farmlands.
Yeah.
They also get a lot of incentives from the government as well. The U.S.
Right.
farmer, enjoys a lot of tax exemptions,
Subsidies.
like that.
That is what they
Subsidies,
do.
right, right, and somewhat, it's indicative on us and the government to be able to do some things like that for our farmers. But we've also been seeing that some countries like your China's, Canada, and so forth, they've been retaliating with tariffs as well.
Yes.
So on a more agitating question, should we retaliate with tariffs?
Well, we are so poor and we are so small in that category. Whatever we retaliate with, it would necessarily mean that none of the goods will come into Guyana. Nobody go on bring the goods in Guyana if we gonna increase the thing so high. But in any way, we don't have that capacity. Mia Motley talked about it there today. We can't really go doing anything. But what we got to do is to ensure that there isn't further tit for tat. I see that China is now retaliated. Everybody and so on have retaliated. The powerful countries. So
Right,
what it will do is cause massive economic upending of the world,
right.
and especially we poor country, we are going to suffer real bad because China could take care of its people. It got $1 trillion economy or $35 trillion. America is $1 trillion economy and this and that and whatever. We are too poor for ever thinking about it. I mean, we shouldn't even countenance the thing. So it is important that we just start begging America to deal with us as a CARICOM or as a Guyana economy, and please take this 38% off because it is going to make Guyana starve, and it is not right. It is not just because we buy so much more products. Sorry, and the Americans, buy about $3.3 billion worth US of our products, and we only buy whatever it is the amount, about I think $789 million. So America likes crude oil. It is good for their refineries. So that's a benefit to them. They like our gold and whatever else. And some of these things are zero rated. They don't pay on, from us. They don't pay us anything. It is
That's
zero
what.
rated.
That's an
So we gotta
opportunity.
equalize this thing because although America buys so much more goods, we really gotta beg them and plead with them and say, Uncle Sam, this is a little unfortunate. I mean,
Mhm.
we've been saying, but in the meantime, we tighten up internally and regionally.
Michael, I have a question. The Treaty of
I know time is going.
Chaguaramas in 1973 was signed among CARICOM nations. And over the years, we've been talking about free trade, right? The CARICOM single market economy, where we're supposed to be able to move goods back and forth. And today we're seeing that we're facing unprecedented times in this region as it relates to trade. What has been the barriers? I mean, we're supposed to already have this market economy going, but why is it that we're still having this issue where CARICOM nations are not trading more than others, trading among themselves, and they're trading more with ABCE countries?
I think it's a human factor, human behavior somehow or the other. Sometimes you could be locked in a mindset that you only favor to do business with a certain type of people. You could lock like that. You could be trained like that over the years to think that the people abroad, that their goods are better than our own. But that is not one of the major problems Guyana had in terms of exporting to the Caribbean is shipping across the country. We hardly have ships actually left in here and going directly to the CARICOM countries. I made to understand when something's going, it got to go right away wrong and then come back to CARICOM. And that should not be. We should have ships landing from here straight to Trinidad, like from Northwest to Trinidad. I think is only about 16 hours traveling. Northwest could produce endless agriculture produce, provision, you name it, coconut, you name it. We need to have a ship moving from Northwest every single week or every 2 weeks, landing in Trinidad and the other CARICOM countries. Until we get ships direct link, shipping link between these countries, that people, anything that people plan, that you could take it and sell it in another country without the cost being too high. Even if you got to subsidize the transportation costs in some way or the other, we would not able to really penetrate that market. We can't put things in container, then it got to go right away wrong and then come back to Trinidad or Barbados or whatever. We need direct shipping link to the CARICOM countries. So the CARICOM may have to have their own cargo ship that running these routes at a regular basis every week or every 2 weeks or whatever. And then you will able to have Guyana selling a lot of things in CARICOM and CARICOM selling a lot of things here.
So,
It's a change of culture too that is required, Colin.
yes.
Yeah,
You
the
know,
culture is one thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
culture, we want to buy stuff from America.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, America this better and that. But the same BG plantain used to go to Barbados and all over the place, and it was the tastiest plantain ever. Why now we can't get back? So we also have to tell our CARICOM neighbors it is in their interest too to start
To
having
buy
a
our
culture of acceptance of these
Right.
goods from Guyana. You
Yeah,
know,
they need to market each other goods.
they need to market each other goods, but also have a taste
Okay.
for it. I mean, the Uncle Ben rice and the basmati out of India is about two of the best rice you could ever come across. But you know what the Japanese do? The
Yeah.
Japanese only want to buy the Japan rice because they
Right.
know that they're gonna make sure that their farmers are employed and they get their food security in order. So in case, let's say India want to put a tariff on its rice going on and
Right.
sell it more there and so on, they got their rice there. So
Right.
it's a national security issue. A
Yeah, I
lot of
went to
people
the
don't
Philippines
understand
as well.
food is a national security issue. And if you want now at a regional level, you got to tell the Barbadian and the Trinidadians. Well, Trinidad has produced some rice too. But you got to tell all the other countries, St. Lucia, Dominica, and so on, please buy from Guyana, which is the biggest thing now, with country, with all these capacities. And you have to bring them, some of them over too, because they got some good farmers in these smaller islands and let they could train as to what it is that they want. China does that all the time with certain markets. It bring the people over from the other countries as to what you want and tell us how it is made. And they gone and they produce it, make it, or they farm it and they do it to size and everything. And then of course they have tremendous shipping arrangements. China is the biggest shipping maker now. Biggest ship making country in the world. Surpass America right now. And so
Right.
you have to start creating friendships with even the Chinese in relation to these matters. Or wheresoever build the ships, if it's European Union, smaller boats that could travel the 16 hours to Trinidad and then Barbados and so on.
Mhm.
You know, so much of planning, but we all have the capacity with that oil money now. But it is how you manage the oil money. If you take them and you make road and the road broke down 3, 4 months from now, and then you take them and you make road, and then you ask the contractor for 15%, 20%, what kind of country we can get? And then our food security could become a national disaster and a national security issue. So I am urging that, Barbicians understand these issues. And it is Berbice that will flourish because it has massive backlands there, going into Ibini and going into all of those territories.
lands,
Yeah.
endless land.
So I want people to understand this tariff thing and how we might very well start suffering with inflation coming to Guyana as a result of it from all around the world.
Guys, in closing, I just want to read part of our statement because
Yes.
we at Alliance for Change, we believe that we should have a national approach in the light of these tariffs. And we said that we believe that serious adjustments to the development of our non-oil economic strategies are now mandatory, as well as our global approach to economic partnerships in our national interests. We repeat our call for mutually agreed political consensus across the political divide on short, medium, and long term development plans in the national interest. This new reality requires national consultation and a national approach. This
Wonderful.
was the message from our party, and I think it resonates well as a closing remark for our show tonight. But it was great to have you guys on the show, founder leader, Mr. Cameron Ramjatan, and Mr. Michael Carrington, our vice chairman. So thank you guys all for joining us on this show tonight in Barbies. And until next week, have a really good night. Take
Thank
care,
you
guys.
so much, Colin.
Thank you,
You're
Calvin.
welcome.
Thank you.